on the Demon King before her limbs were torn apart. You've made me realize even God has forsaken us. For that, I'm truly grateful. These were the saintess's parting words, who was said to be born only once every few thousand years. She died at the hands of the Demon King's forces as she struggled to evacuate one more imperial citizen. Disgusting. The warlock's dying words, as someone who had been my attendant since my childhood. She rebuked my hideous nature before committing suicide right in front of my eyes. Out of everyone I've ever known, you are the most repulsive. This was how the princess, the hope of the empire, said her last goodbye on the day of the decisive battle. She resisted the Demon King until the end, before being used as a sacrifice to the magic that turned this continent into hell. Even the worst demons condemned to hell are less vile than you foolish man. The Demon King said so with a mocking laughter, as I willingly surrendered and grabbed the hero's weapon that has been passed down through my family for generations. I know. However, that laughter quickly turned into a muttering of shock when I let the hero's weapon in my arms explode. Boy, why the hell? To the Demon King, who asked with a bewildered expression, I gave a simple answer with a smile. To gain the system. After saying those words, I glanced at the system window that appeared in front of me with a dull sound as I disappeared alongside the Demon King. System unlocked Path of False Evil, and when I opened my eyes, I was lying in the dormitory bed where I was staying the day before I entered the academy. I really am back. After realizing that I have returned to a time in the past after checking the calendar on my desk, I muttered quietly. System. Path of false evil, an unavoidable fate that is given to you, you who once destroyed the world. Save the world by tainting your name with sin. Accumulated false evil points, 0. I stared ahead with a satisfied look at the system window obtained with great difficulty after doing something that did not fit my nature before I tried to get out of bed due to feeling hungry. Warning penalty. What? When I checked the window that had appeared in front of me, I had no choice but to freeze in shock as I got out of bed. Penalty. 5 main heroines have awakened the memories of the previous timeline. What is this bullshit? I'm fucked. Chapter 1. There was nothing like this mentioned in the prophecy. While reading the atrocious details of the penalty, I hurriedly rummaged through my old suitcase and pulled a worn-out piece of paper. Even though it looks like a worthless piece of paper, this is my family heirloom that has been passed down through generations for over 1,000 years. And what was written on this scrap of paper that had been passed down through generations? That answer will be known if one goes to the statue of the hero, the largest sculpture in the empire, and read the contents etched on the slab, which states, on the 1000th anniversary of the disappearance of the Demon King, the heir of the Demon King will appear and devour the world. You will need a hero with the same strength as me to stop him. This was the official testament and prophecy of the great hero, known throughout the empire to have defeated the original Demon King. However, the real prophecy was actually written on this paper. Of course, it's the same until the part, you will need a hero with the same strength as me, but from that point onwards, it has been recorded as a secret book and handed down from generation to generation in my family. Father, these are not runic characters, nor ancient texts. What's the identity of these characters that are too well structured to be termed as cipher? These are called Hangul. For reference, my father called these mysterious characters Hangul. My father, who deeply respects the hero, was proud to merely know the name of these characters, but I didn't like them because they were very complex. Anyway, the content written after the widely known prophecy of the hero is as follows. And that hero will be my direct descendant, who will be born exactly 1,000 years after the death of the Demon King. So, future descendants, if you are reading this, keep your eyes wide open. As it stated, when I opened my eyes wide, colorful pictures and videos appeared and then the following phrase greeted me. Let's attack from now on. Yes. The legendary hero who defeated the Demon King 1,000 years ago, and the ancestor of our family, came from another world. According to the ancestor's prophecy, he was playing a game called Dark Tale Fantasy when he uttered an insult, calling it a shit game, and then lost consciousness because of an unknown force. He later woke up to find himself in a world where the game Dark Tale Fantasy became reality. His prophetic book was written in magical characters that only a direct descendant of my family could view through space distortion magic, and was dozens of pages long. Roughly speaking, it is the story of my ancestor, who had barely managed to reach a happy ending using their game knowledge. Anyway, the important thing is that there was a sequel to the game called Dark Tale Fantasy 2 in the world where my ancestor was originally from, which was evaluated as being a dog shit game, worse than Part 1, and made by the development company to torture the players. According to my ancestor, who was quite familiar with its content, as he was introduced to the series through the sequel, in order to grant the present world a happy ending, the hero must destroy the world once. This is because, by doing so, you can get a system with a hidden route and achieve a happy ending. So, I committed evil deeds in the previous timeline and ruined the world. Of course, I had no choice but to feel a tremendous sense of guilt because I grew up kindly under a father who was proud that I was a direct successor to the hero. But what could I have done? The Demon King would have destroyed the world instead if I didn't. In that way, after committing many repulsive deeds and even catching the Demon King off guard at the last moment, I regressed and earned the title of Path of False Evil. So, I didn't really commit any evil deeds but was instead a false evil and tried to protect the empire and the world at my own expense, but the memories of the women who hated me to death in the previous timeline have also returned. What should I do? They're just so troublesome. Ha. I held my head and tried to recall the main heroines who should have returned with their memories by now. The greatest genius on the continent who will become the chancellor in the future, one with the potential to become the continent's strongest archmage, a saintess who only appears once every 1,000 years, a warlock who would have shrouded the world in darkness if it weren't for the curse, and the imperial princess. No matter how much I thought about it, it was so ridiculous that I couldn't help but laugh. If I hadn't been a member of the revered family of the hero and the first son of the ducal household with over 1,000 years of history, I might have been mercilessly killed with a knife somewhere in the middle of a street by now. Moreover, even such a position might have been meaningless if the princess had not been a scarecrow at the very end of the line of succession to the throne. Of course, within a few years, the princess will be first in the line of succession with her extraordinary talent. But she won't be able to touch me right now. She can't touch me, can she? Anyway, according to the game information left behind by my ancestor, the main heroines were initially designed to fall in love with me. It is mentioned that if things go well, I'll be able to have a harem, but it looks like I will be stabbed by the 5 heroines, let alone have a harem. Somehow, I'll have to rack my brains out to survive from the main heroines. First. Who is the most urgent? First of all, since tomorrow is the Academy's entrance ceremony, I will be facing most of the heroines tomorrow at the Academy. Only the heroine who would become my fiancé and future chancellor is excluded. If my memory is correct, she's currently on a trip abroad. Including the archmage, the saintess, and the princess for now. And of course I'll have to see them tomorrow, but there's nothing I can do about that right now. Then, the only heroine that's left is... Knock, knock, knock. Excuse me. While I was pondering, someone opened the dormitory door and came in. Young master, it's time to eat. And, as soon as I realized the identity of the person who opened the door and entered, my eyes began to shake. What's wrong, young master? Oh, nothing. The person who was looking down at me with a blank expression is the female butler of our ducal family. She is a cursed warlock and one of the main heroines, Kania, and must have also recalled the memories of the previous timeline. She has an attractive appearance, with her short black hair, black suit, and white gloves being her trademark. My father was the one who brought her into our family, as he recognized her magical talents while she was wandering around the streets with her sister. In fact, according to the prophecy, my father, who memorized her appearance, was waiting on the street, just so he could bring her back. Anyway, I have two of her weaknesses in my grasp. One being the knowledge that she is a warlock condemned by the world, and the other being the fact that she is currently under a curse. The curse that gnaws at her life only stabilizes when she is around me, the hero's successor. As such, she can't leave my side even for a moment. Young master, how should I prepare the meal? The usual. Alright. As I recalled Kanya's information, she asked me what I wanted to eat in an ice-cold voice, so I asked for the usual. In actuality, I can't remember what I used to eat at this age, but wouldn't she be able to take care of it on her own? Also, there was definitely killing intent in her voice and eyes. So she really did recall her memories from the previous timeline. I hoped it was an error or a prank, but it seems that the contents of the system are accurate. If that's the case, I can't just stay still. Since the 5 heroines could cruelly murder me if I just stay still. Even at this moment, the heroines are false evil's intuition, a strong murderous intent is felt nearby. Wait. What is this? Suddenly, a red warning window popped up in front of my eyes. Judging from the contents, it seemed to be related to Kanya. But something is strange. I felt her murderous intention before, so why is this only appearing now? System. After thinking about it for a while, I opened the system window in a low voice and touched the Acquired Skills List window. Acquired Skills List, False Evil's Intuition LV1 Description. With your intuition as a false evil, you can detect a deadly threat once a day. According to the knowledge gained from the prophecy that I had learned when I opened the list of acquired skills, the skill called False Evil's Intuition was right there. After reading the description carefully, this skill detects a deadly threat once a day. In other words, it is a skill that I really needed because I did not know when I would become a target for assassination. Wait, so my life is already in danger? The fact that this skill has activated now means that Kanya, who is preparing food from downstairs, is planning to kill me. The method of assassination is poison, isn't it? She is weak due to her curse, so it isn't treasonable for her to wage an all-out war against me, a direct descendant of the family of the hero. For the same reason, she can't use most black magic powers without my cooperation. Of course, even without my help, if she is determined to struggle for hours, she can barely create a lethal dose of poison using black magic. Squeak. Young master, I brought the soup that you always enjoyed. As I was pondering about the method of assassination, the dormitory door was reopened, and Kanya came in with a bowl of soup. There. Have fun. I hope you enjoy your meal. It looks like this was quite difficult for her. I'm pretty sure she overused her black magic. When did I tell you to bring me soup? Yes? I stared at her and grumbled quietly. When did I tell you to bring me soup? The soup used to be the young master's favorite. Where did you get that answer from? Clank. Kanya, who had been struggling to continue her words, closed her eyes tightly when I shouted at her and spilled the soup as she opened her mouth with a shudder. Then what kind of food would you like me to bring? Didn't I tell you to bring what I always ate? You idiot. You wouldn't know unless I tell you, would you? It's a sandwich. Sandwich. Yes, of course. I'll have it ready for you right away. I screamed in disgust as she clenched her teeth and staggered out of the room. Acquired false evil points, 1 point. Self-defense, and at the same time, a window appeared in front of me. That's right. The Path of False Evil, a cheat system obtained as a regression perk following the prophetic book, gives you points every time you commit an evil deed. And these accumulated points will become the medium to save the world. For me, who was once the greatest villain in the Empire, This is just the system I need. Master, the sandwich you ordered. Anyway, after looking into the system window and pondering for a while, Kanya, who was much more emaciated than before, re-entered the room, this time with a sandwich. Why is there no cheese? Please go make it again. But. Are you going to talk back to me now? No. Having sent her down again, I continued to nitpick and overwork her. The surface of the bread is dry and twisted. Again. The ham is too thick. Again. Too few pickles. Again. The shape is so distasteful. Again. After going back and forth between the room and the kitchen for a long time, she began to reach her limits, but her eyes were still filled with hatred. Thinking about it, I forgot to ask for tuna. Again. But, when I ordered the sandwich for the 11th time, she ended up coughing blood from her mouth and tripping on the floor as she had forced herself to overuse the black magic. Acquired false evil points, 1 pint. Acquired survival bonus points, extra 10 pints. Accumulated false evil points, 22 pints. I stared blankly at the windows that appeared one after another when she collapsed. I got up quietly and approached her unconscious self. I'm sorry, Kanya. Seeing her sullen expression, I uttered an apology that would never be heard. I quickly carried the young lady to the bed and reached out to begin infusing my life force into her body. Kun. I felt the pain as if my whole body were being torn apart. Yes. The reason that the effect of the curse weakens when Kanya is by my side is not because I have special powers as a hero. It's just that I imbue my life force into her so that her curse stagnates for a while. Thanks to this, my lifespan is slowly being reduced, but what can I do? It's an unavoidable fate since I decided to live as a villain. Acquired false evil points, 30 pints. Self-sacrifice, accumulated false evil points, 62 pints. After I finished injecting my life force, I felt a tingling sensation in my body. As I sat down on the floor, I muttered with a sigh. This time, don't die in front of my eyes, Kanya. Looking down at her quietly shivering form, I began to reread the last line of the prophetic book, which I had read repeatedly, using the moonlight permeating through the window as a light source. When everything is over, the hero will perish in vain alongside the Demon King. Indeed, it's a damned world. Chapter 2. The chirping of the birds signaled the daybreak. I guess it's time to lay her down, isn't it? I carefully lifted Kanya, who was dozing on the bed, and placed her gently on the floor where she fainted. After this, I sat down on the bed that she was originally sleeping on and shouted at her. Hey! How long are you going to just lie there? She, who was lying on the floor, stood up in shock and looked at me with clenched teeth as she confirmed the fact that she collapsed on the floor. Why are you staring at me like that? Do you have any complaints? No. Then go prepare breakfast. Yes. Oh, and if you're going to bring a terrible meal like yesterday's, just take your sister and leave. What? You don't want to take your sister with you? Will you leave her with our family? I'll make her my mistress if that's the case. When I mentioned her sister, Kanya couldn't control her expression and burst into tears. To her, her younger sister was both her most precious existence and her biggest weakness. Then please get ready. I'll be right back. Yes, work hard. As she fled the room crying, the system window appeared in front of me without fail. Acquired false evil points, 1 pint. Insincere remarks, apostrophe. What's this message next to the point? Is it explaining the circumstances under which I committed the evil deed? I glanced at the system window for a moment, then soon nodded and muttered. Well, I never really meant those words from the bottom of my heart. Kanya's younger sister later proves to be a valuable key to her future cure, so how could I treat her like that? Well, I still have to make Kanya hate me by telling her I still covet her sister. Breakfast. When I got up from bed and settled down at the dining table, Kanya brought coffee and sandwiches. As I said nothing while looking down at the meal, Kanya clenched her teeth. She must be thinking that I'm about to ruin the meal again. However, I just made sure that the false evil's intuition wasn't triggered. Given that false evil's intuition that warns me of a serious threat to my life once a day didn't activate, it seems my breakfast isn't poisoned. Okay, I am tired of nitpicking now. Can you match the novel to its main genre? Fortunately, I met you. I started drinking coffee with an expression that said I had no choice because it was such a hassle. It's so delicious. I've been thinking for a long time, but Kanya is great at cooking. Right now, even this coffee alone is enough to overwhelm the royal baristas. Why is this so bitter again? I apologize. Of course, I could never say that it was delicious, since I have to be a villain. Anyway, there's nothing to like about this. I will do my best to please you, Master. Then don't just stand there and hand me the invitation to the academy. I want to show you something. Yes. As I ordered in an apathetic voice, Kanya pulled out an academy invitation from her arms. Sunrise Academy Freyre on Starlight, the first son of the noble family of the hero. We invite you to Sunrise Academy, the pride of the Empire and the foremost academy on the continent. Please come to our academy and become the starlight that shines upon us. Sincerely, Dean Lionel. Did you see? They want me to become their starlight. I snorted as I quietly read the invitation, then crumpled it up and threw it at Kanya. I'm in a different position than you, an orphan who could only enter the academy with my father's letter of recommendation. So, won't you take good care of me at the academy? Kanya? Yes, but young master. You should know the rule that all academy students are equal? Damn it, that's what the barons and margraves follow. I am one of the few dukes in the empire that's also the direct descendant of the hero's family. So, don't talk about such a silly thing. At the academy, if there are commoner bastards who complain about the rules, you will deal with them. Okay? Yes. Then it's time to leave for the academy. Since the descendant of the revered hero's family can't be late from the first day of the academy. Having said that, I purposely got up from my seat with more than half of the coffee and sandwich left. In my mind, I really wanted to finish the meal as I couldn't eat well yesterday, but it's only a way to make her hate me. Master, the carriage is ready. Hello Tilda. Master Frey. We will bring you safely to your destination in the finest carriage we've prepared. Yes. As I left the dormitory, a magnificent golden carriage bearing the family crest was waiting for me. Oh, you're more handsome than the rumors. Oh, my gosh. I fell in love at first sight. Yes? Yes. If you have time. I looked at the carriage for a while and was about to go inside, when suddenly a lady out of nowhere emerged and hugged me. You're so obvious, you bitch. I was infamous for being quite the lustful man. That's right, at this point, my reputation is at its worst. Of course, since I'm the first son of the hero's family in the empire that even the imperial family cannot ignore, so contrary to my reputation, I'm always revered by those around me. Anyway, it seems like he deliberately picked a prime beauty to seduce me. Unfortunately, I don't have time to play with such a woman right now, as my life is on the line. Boo-ha-ha. After all, you can clearly see the inside of such a vulgar being, isn't it? I snickered and wrapped my arms around Kanya's waist, and muttered coldly. By the way, even though you're of similar lowly status, I have a more useful one by my side. Ah, yes. Kanya, who suddenly curled her waist, clenched her teeth and held back her killing intent. And I'm a little busy right now. I see. Excuse me. As I spoke coldly, the woman's face turned pale blue, and she scampered away from me. Kanya, let's get in the carriage together. I can ride on horseback. Aren't we traveling in the carriage together, Kanya? Yes. Meanwhile, I smiled and got on the carriage with Kanya, and threw a word to the woman who was standing blankly behind me. I will remember your face. Yes. Thank you. It was a known fact in the world that if the first son of the Starlight family remembered your face, it was a sign that he will spend the night with you. Perhaps that's why the woman gave a beaming smile, and Kanya was struggling hard to hide her disgust. Acquired false evil points, 1 pint. Avoided honey trap. In fact, I remembered this from the blacklist memorized in my head. Perhaps that woman is a hired courtesan from a brothel in the upper echelons of the underworld. I need to write a letter to my father later and tell him about the relationship between the upper echelons of the underworld and the rest of the world. Young master. Yes? I'm worried that the young master's arm will go numb. So, why don't you take your arm off my waist? As I got into the carriage and sat next to Kanya instead of sitting across from her, keeping my arms wrapped around her, she spoke in a trembling voice. I don't want to? Please. Come to think of it, it's kind of awkward to keep it wrapped around your waist. Then. This is okay, right? Ignoring her reaction, I placed my hand on her thigh this time. Why, young master. Please. Don't do this. Then Kanya closed her eyes tightly and burst into tears. Well, that's unfortunate. I finally moved away from her and sat on the seat opposite to her. Looking out the window, I muttered to myself while carefully wiping the blood that had spurted out from between my lips. Anyway. I can't get used to this, no matter how many times I do it. Unless Kanya is asleep, I have no choice but to infuse my life force into her this way. Of course, infusing life force this way is several times more physically demanding than when she is asleep, not to mention that I'm even treated as a sexual harasser. Well, if I can prolong Kanya's life, I'm fully willing to be treated as a sexual harasser. I'm going to take a nap, so keep quiet. Kanya. Yes. So I tried to close my eyes for a moment in the carriage before entering the academy, but soon I remembered that the woman in front of me was hell-bent on killing me. Fuck. I eventually gave up on sleeping, closed my eyes and looked at the false evil points I had once again earned through self-sacrifice. Accumulated false evil points, 100 pints. So, that's quite a lot. It hasn't even been a day since my regression, but I've already accumulated 100 points, probably because I've been doing various evil deeds non-stop. Store. I opened the window, muttering store in a hushed voice, and rolled my eyes while keeping them closed. Let's see. Stat distribution. Item store. And even the skill store? That's a lot. As written in the prophecy, the store seems to consume the evil points and provide me with benefits. I want to examine it in detail right now, but there is Kanya lurking out in front of me. I'll have to find out more later once I return to my dormitory. Kanya. Hold on. Hee. After I finally made my decision, I pretended to sleep while calling out Kanya's name the whole way to the academy. Thanks to this, the bloodlust I could feel has increased, but as a result, the accumulated false evil points have also grown. I guess I'll have to use this often. Young master, please wake up. Kanya. Hee. That posture is nice. Keep it up. Young master, please. What is it? What's the matter? I was pretending to sleep for a while, then suddenly Kanya started shaking me to wake me up. As I roughly rubbed my eyes and woke up, Kanya sighed and said, "We've arrived at the academy. We'll have to get off soon." Already? These days, carriages are really fast. As I stretched out and looked out the window, Sunrise Academy appeared in front of me. It's so heartwarming to see the academy standing on the ground again. Originally, that academy collapsed under the attack of the Demon King. Freyre on Starlight, The first son of the Starlight Duke, the family of the hero, is here. Did you see Kanya? I haven't even entered the academy yet, but they still recognized me? I think they saw the family's crest on the carriage. You're so tactless, sometimes you just have to agree. I apologize. I, who was deliberately being mean to Kanya, muttered to myself as I looked at the accumulated false evil points. The rules of equality will be ensured, yet such nonsense is still left. Equality is just a pretense. There is a rule that states, everyone is equal in the academy, so why hasn't the tradition of announcing the arrival of a son from an influential family on the day of the entrance ceremony yet to disappear? This is a place to gain knowledge, not a banquet hall. The empire is gradually rotting because of such evil practices and corruption. Although I was the one to destroy the empire in the previous timeline, it is quite clear that the empire's fall was imminent, even without the involvement of the Demon King or myself. So, I have to defeat the Demon King, make sure the heroines survive, and clean up the imperial blemishes to some extent. After defeating the Demon King, I'll probably be no longer in this world. Well, it's not impossible if I use the knowledge gained from both the prophecy and the previous timeline, but the heroines are still the problem. False evil's intuition, a powerful killing intent is felt nearby. Hee, speak of the devil. I took a deep breath as I recited the famous saying my ancestor loved to use in the prophetic book. It's not just any killing intent either, but a killing intent that I could feel. Apparently, the main heroines are all furious. Chapter 3. The entrance ceremony ended without a hitch. Everyone cheers. What's noteworthy is the welcoming freshman party held after the entrance ceremony. Of course, the reception of commoners is modest and straightforward, but that wasn't the case for the nobles. This is a wine from the western continent. It's 56 years old. Here, veal fillet steak and foie gras. I wish you a pleasant meal. The people of the empire are starving, yet these esteemed daughters and sons, who didn't even receive a title, are spending enough money to feed a village for a few months at a welcoming party for freshmen. Then again, I'm the leader of such a group. Lord Frey. Let's have a toast. Oh my, the rumors going around that you're a handsome man are true. Can you spare some time tonight? Greetings, Lord Frey. I'm the second son of Viscount Ariel. Surrounded by countless flattering people seated at the place of honor, I gave a strained smile and sipped my drink. Of course, internally I'm worried about how to survive from the heroines while trying to figure out how to eradicate the parasites that corrode this empire. So, do you know what that commoner bastard said earlier? What did he say? Well, he said his dream is to become a student council member. Don't you think that's funny? He's definitely got a screw loose. Should we knock some sense into him? As I pretended to have fun chatting with the women who approached me, I overheard the conversation of the nobles sitting next to me. Yes, on the surface, Sunrise Academy strives for equality for all, but it's not the case at all on the inside. Most aristocrats implicitly ignore the commoners, and some even blatantly bully them. This stands true for aristocratic students as well. The greater their power, the more benefits and fame they receive, so the professors turn a blind eye to these absurdities. In other words, it's bullshit. It's not a guy, but a girl? What? A girl? That would be more fun, right? The woman they are talking about now is probably her, who will become the archmage of the empire in the future from a commoner and dominate the battlefield. When she was at the academy, she became a bullying target for the aristocrats after entering 3 inebriated noble students who picked a fight with her. Right? I suppose that sounds interesting. Ah, Lord Frey? So, when are you going to do it, George? Well, wouldn't it be better to go as soon as possible? Haha. Really? Then do a good job. Oh, yes. As I spoke indifferently, the nobleman in the middle bowed 90 degrees and went out of the banquet hall while having a heated discussion with the people he was talking to. Anyway, I have seen no trustworthy person among this extravagant bunch. I stared at the student's back pitifully, as he would soon become a sacrifice to the woman destined to be an archmage, and got lost in thought. Tomorrow, when I officially start attending the academy, obviously I will cross paths with the heroines. Story icon sponsored ad. Up next, surprising facts about reading. This is because all of us are assigned to Class A. Of course, unlike the 5 heroines who are naturally talented or just geniuses, I had to pull some strings to get in. In fact, I used the back door on purpose. Honestly, even if I take the exam now, I'm confident I'll be tied for first place with my fiancé and get a perfect score. But alas, I can't, because I must be an incompetent, evil, pathetic and vile person. Of course, someone who is not familiar with the system might ask, instead of stressing too much, why not just selectively commit the evil deeds after confiding to a few people at random that I'm a false evil? In fact, that's a situation I'm desperately hoping for, but there's no way the system can easily present a happy ending to this doomed world. System, Inherent Skill Window. Inherent Skills Window, Permanent Debuff, the Fate of False Evil Description. Every time you are discovered to be a false evil, your vitality and lifespan will decrease. This daunting penalty is the reason I can't reveal my identity and abandon selective evil. I'm still periodically giving my life force to Kanya, and I have a lot of work to do, so if my lifespan further decreases because of the system's penalty, I'll be done for. So, I should never let people find out that I'm a false evil. Should I just give up on being a villain? For a moment, I felt my resolve weakening, but then I shook my head and hardened my heart. As the successor to the hero who appeared in the world 1,000 years ago, my father trained me for a long time. If I don't step up here, the world will perish. However, my father is not a cold-hearted person who drives his son into a desperate situation, knowing he would die. Father would have torn the prophetic book to shreds if he'd known that I was doomed to die. Perhaps my ancestor had foreseen this, and put a spell on the phrase "the hero will perish in vain" alongside the Demon King so that only I could see it. But if this happens, then my ancestor from another world would have been a person without blood or tears, who forced his heir to sacrifice himself 1,000 years later. System, show clear privilege. Clear privilege, when everything is over, you can make a single wish to the sun god. Perhaps my ancestor negotiated with the sun god 1,000 years ago in order to avoid such a reputation, and left me, his successor, this gift. After all, he is the sun god who is the overseer of light in this world, and can easily grant the wish of a mere mortal like me. In short, this is my plan. First, I'll become infamous as I keep on committing evil deeds while gathering evidence one after another and reigning as the secret mastermind. Simultaneously, I'll weaken the Axis power of evil while eradicating the despicable customs and abominations of the Empire. Then, on the day of the decisive battle, I'll use the system to die along with the Demon King. After that, I'll wish for my revival to the sun god. For reference, my ancestor wrote a tip in the prophetic book. He said that the sun god is more pompous and cheapskate than expected, so if one wishes for something more difficult than resurrection, they are likely to be punished for a damnable sin. If the Church of the Sun God and Saints saw the book's content, they would denounce my ancestor as a heretic right away, but I believe my ancestor who was the Empire's hero over a cult that only knows how to preach nonsense. Anyway, after resurrecting, I will reveal the information I have gathered so far to prove my innocence and self-sacrifice. Then I will spend the rest of my life in luxury as the hero. Of course, as a bonus, I'll get to see the cleansed empire. Frankly, it's going to be a pretty tough journey to get the rewards, but what can I do? I am the only one who can save the world from destruction. And if I don't do this, eventually my family and I will die in this doomed world. After all, this madness is something that must be done to save not only the Empire but also myself and the people I care about. Hey, come here. Hey, let me go. So save me. You filthy bitches. Can't you just shut your trap and follow me? While I was drinking and organizing my thoughts, suddenly the door of the banquet hall banged open and there was a commotion. When I looked closely at what was going on, I saw that the drunken nobles who went outside caused a ruckus by dragging commoner girls into the banquet hall. I didn't attend the banquet hall in the previous timeline as I was trying to devise a plan on how to destroy the Empire. Damn it, I can't believe this is happening. While sipping wine casually on the surface, in my mind I was contemplating how to solve this problem, when suddenly I heard a familiar swear word from afar. Fuck. Fuck you bastards. Let me go. Let me go. Be quiet. Angry bitch. Lord Frey. I've got her. The sleazy bitch I mentioned earlier. Uck. Eventually, when I found out that the noble student who went outside earlier was holding a red-haired girl with ferocious eyes and a scarred face, I was so startled that I had no choice but to open my mouth. Arena Fillard was captured here? She was called the Second Coming of Hellfire, and her nickname wasn't just for show, as she turned the area to a pit of hell every time she stepped onto the battlefield. Besides her primary field of expertise, flame magic, she is a genius magician proficient in all elemental magic and is literally born to wield magic. Since she is such a genius, she should have top-notch skills even during her school days. Why did she meekly get captured then? Don't tell me she is planning to burn down the entire banquet hall to wipe out all the nobles along with me? After a moment of terrifying imagination, I quickly operated the system window floating in front of me and entered the store. Store, Beginner Assistance Skills, Inspect LV1, 30 points. Description, displays important information about the target you are inspecting in the system window. Emergency Protection, 70 points. Description, protects the target once from a fatal blow. Disposable, purchase limit 03, Mind Reading LV1, 150 points. Description, allows you to read a person's emotions once per day. I quickly looked at the skills that could be useful in the current situation, and I urgently purchased Inspect LV1 and Emergency Protection. Status window. After completing the purchase, I muttered in a low voice, and a window summarizing Arena's information appeared in front of my eyes. Stats, name, Arena Fillard. Strength, 8 mana, 8 intelligence, 7 mental strength, 5 passive status, mana exhaustion, sickly, weakened, mana exhaustion? Perhaps it was because she was still at a low level, but I was checking her briefly summarized information. I was dumbfounded when I saw the part about mana exhaustion. As a freshman at the academy, she already boasts an incredible magical talent of 8 mana, and now she's mana exhausted? Does this even make sense? Fuck. I'm going to kill everyone. I'm going to kill you all. She's rude, but doesn't she have a pretty face? What about the other bitches? Hey, don't tell me you guys are going to play with these lowly bitches? As long as they taste good, that's all that matters. I tilted my head to see what the hell was going on, but the aristocratic male students started whispering as they looked at Arena and the commoner girls who had been dragged in with sinister eyes. I choose the girl on the far left. I'm getting the brunette on the right. Then I'll choose that shrewd bitch. The male students, who had been whispering for a while, raised the corners of their lips, and one by one, they soon stood up from their seats and started walking towards the girls who were trembling on their knees. Help. Please. Hey, let me go. You bastards. Eventually, the women started screaming as the men grabbed their hands, and finally I, who had been quietly observing the situation until then, had no choice but to take action. Can't you stay still? This lowly bitch dares. Clank. Hack. I threw the crystal wine glass in my hands at the boy who was walking while holding Arena's head. What the hell? What kind of fucker? The male student, who was staggering after being hit by the wine glass, grabbed his forehead and started swearing. while I glared coldly at him and opened my mouth. "You bastard! What are you calling me? Lord Effray?" Since my drunken behavior of throwing glasses and violent nature is widely known, the surrounding atmosphere became chilly in an instant. "Lower your head." "Yes, yes." As soon as I finished my words, he banged his head so hard that a dull sound resounded in the banquet hall. However, I looked at him coldly and opened my mouth again. "Where are you putting your head? Yeah? Place your head on the shards of the broken glass, you punk. The guy rolled his eyes for a moment at my words, but he was quick to notice, as he banged his head on the shards of the broken wine glass with all his might and shouted, "Sorry, I'm sorry. Lord Frey. Please forgive me." At that shocking scene, the surrounding atmosphere became uncontrollably grim. As I sighed amidst it all and got up from my seat, I calmly said, "Everyone except for these girls get out." Yes? Didn't you hear me? I told everyone to leave, didn't I? Ha, but. Get out so I can have fun with them, you bastards. As soon as I rebuked them, the students, who had been wary for a while, soon rushed out. "Please, someone else save me." Soon after, a slender-looking female student, who was dragged to the banquet hall and the only woman on the left side of the male student, opened her mouth while trembling. "Let's see how you taste." I ignored her plea and started stroking her chin, and at that moment, the rest of the girls who witnessed the scene started trembling in fear. "Hey, run away." Irina pushed me down with all her strength and screamed at the children next to her. "Teeth, thank you." Then the girls, who were terrified, fled all at once, and Irina, who was smiling at them, soon keeled over as she ran out of strength. "You are one crazy bitch, aren't you?" After confirming that the girls had escaped, I slowly got up, picked up a bottle of wine from the desk and chugged it down my throat as I approached Irina. "Hey! It turns out you're disgusting until the end. You bastard! What are you talking about? You're a bastard who will soon become a corpse, a filthy piece of shit who only thinks with his lower half. Utter trash. If I had known that things would turn out this way, I would have used my ultimate magic on you instead of the Demon King. What kind of bullshit are you spouting, you bitch?" I desperately pretended to be drunk as she kept shooting the events of the previous timeline like a rapid-fire gun, and after conveying that I had no clue what she was talking about, I arrived in front of her and reached out to her. Damn it, I should have saved Samana for committing suicide. I felt a hit to my heart from her words as soon as I grabbed her collar. I soon closed my eyes and slumped to the floor. ZZZZ.ZZZZ.ZZZZ. Normally, doing such a defenseless thing in front of her would be suicidal, but she is currently in a mana exhaustion state. In other words, she can't harm me right now. After I collapsed on the floor and pretended to snore, I felt her looking down on me for a moment, then she staggered quickly out of the banquet hall. Honestly, I don't know how I would react if she actually tried to kill me. Fortunately, it seems that she was smart enough to recall the possibility that the men I had chased off earlier might return, and if they find me dead, not only herself but also her family will be annihilated. Acquired false evil points, 200 pints. The savior of female students, ha. It's really tough. After a while, when the false evil points appeared in front of me, my tension was relieved at once, then I sighed and tried to get up. Notice. Emergency protection skill is automatically used. What? Target, Irina Phillips 12 o'clock curse. Details. The 12 o'clock curse sentences the target to inevitable death at 12 o'clock midnight the day after the spell is cast. This devastating curse can only be used once a year, and the person who activated the curse suffers from mana exhaustion for 1 year. I almost passed out when I saw the system window that popped up in front of me. Apparently, I have a lot of work left to do in the future. Chapter 4. Young Master, wake up. What is it? Young master, if you sleep here, you'll ruin not only your reputation but also the face of the family. So please get up quickly. I almost died the day after I returned because of Irina's curse. Shocked by this realization, I was quietly lying down dazed in the empty banquet room, but I quickly pretended to be drunk when Kanya entered. Carry me. Young master, you are well aware that That's right. Our Kanya is a warlock, isn't she? Why, young master? Besides, she's always in a weak state because of the curse she bears as a warlock. Well, I guess she can't help after all. I'll carry you on my back. Please, just stop. Thank you. Kanya took a deep breath as she slung me onto her back, and then she started wobbling. Whoa. Phew. May I put you down for a moment? I don't think I will need to get off if you hold me in an upright position. Kanya trembled slightly after hearing this, then soon responded in a guttural, irritated voice. I'll fix it. Giddy up. Run. Really? So Kanya slowly started heading towards my dormitory, listening to my fake drunk grumbling with her dead eyes fixed on me. Cough. What's wrong with you this time? Don't worry about it. Keep following the way you are going, you black magician. Oh, did I just say you're a black magician, not a warlock? And so I began imbuing life force into her while she carried me on her back. Kanya will not last long and die soon if I don't infuse life force into her periodically like this. That's why I have to infuse life force into her whenever I get an opportunity like this. For reference, the larger the area of contact, the more life force I can transfer to her. So, I tried to imbue months worth of life force at this opportunity, but soon I gave up when I remembered that Kanya was also looking for a chance to kill me. So I started infusing a little more life force than usual to relieve her fatigue as I snuggled close to her back and pretended to sleep. I don't know if it's God's trick or what. At the same time as I was sharing my life force, Kanya, who was carrying me on her back, suddenly muttered in a spiteful voice. Even for my sister's sake, this time, I must kill you. That's too much. I felt nauseated, as I couldn't even spit the blood that came up to my mouth since I was already overdoing it by sharing my life force with Kanya. In the meantime, she's declaring that she's going to kill me. Thanks to this, I felt my heart ache. However, this is inevitable as long as I act like a villain. Now, to Kanya, I'm a piece of trash that's aiming for her younger sister, who has shown time and time again to have an outstanding talent in healing magic. Gulp. Thanks to the side effects of transferring life force, I quietly swallowed the blood in my mouth and started dozing off on her back. Of course, I couldn't fall asleep completely, as I was afraid of being killed while sleeping. Sure enough, it's hard pretending to be the villain. Young master, we have arrived. Where? This is the dormitory where the young master will be staying from today. The academy has especially made sure that the room is of the finest quality, so there will be no inconvenience. Get out. Yes? You should just leave so that I can get some sleep. I interrupted her explanation as I beckoned her to leave, pretending to be annoyed. Then, if you'll excuse me. Kanya then greeted me at 90 degrees as she smiled brightly for some reason. I stared at her for a moment, and just as she was about to open the door to leave, I muttered. Wait, don't go. Yes? Don't leave yet. I understand. When I overturned my earlier order after she had just almost left, she tilted her head for a moment as if confused, but soon showed an expression of understanding. Perhaps, she's thinking, what's wrong with the young master? The young master is going to bullshit again. Isn't it possible for her to come up with the answer on her own? Come here for a second. With such a futile thought, I purchased Mind Reading LV1 from the skill store window of the system that had been previously floating in front of me, then called Kanya over. Then she approached me with a rotten expression on her face. I haven't even done anything to her yet, but being scorned makes me feel like the shepherd boy from the imperial fairy tale. Kanya's current emotions: disgust, murderous intent / rage / contempt / shame / firm will. Anyway, when I used my mind reading skill on her, who came all the way over to me, the emotions that surfaced in front of me were a sight to behold except for the last one. Even her most sane emotion, firm will, must have come from her desire to kill me eventually. This is starting to scare me a little about using mind reading skill in the future. By the way, it's incredible that I can know the emotions in such detail when I'm still at level 1. I'm looking forward to how useful it will be if I level it up further. Status window. After testing the beginner assistance skill, mind reading, I mumbled to open her status window. Stats: name, Kanya, strength, 3 mana. Intelligence, 7 mental strength, 4 passive status, afflicted, mana instability, curse of self-destruction. Isn't her mana value strange? Is it because of the curse? Born with the power to wield black magic, Kanya quite literally has the potential to cover the world with darkness. However, she wasn't born with just black magic. Her curse of self-destruction, which accompanied her along with her innate talent for black magic, periodically eroded her life force, and because of this, Kanya, whose mana has become quite unstable, can't even use magic properly without my help at this point. Perhaps that's why her mana figure seems to have appeared as a question mark. After all, I have to do something about this curse. Of course, even with that curse, she might be alive now, but if I let it go, there will be a time when even my life force won't be enough to help her. In just a few months, she will face her first crisis. So I still need to accumulate as many false evil points as possible, move on to the next stage, and find a way to awaken the key to curing the curse, Kanya's younger sister. When I finished contemplating Kanya's curse, I put on a facial expression that it was a bother to speak and beckoned Kanya to leave. Then Kanya, who also looked too bothered to speak, bowed her head briefly and left the room. In this aspect, we get along well with each other. After Kanya left her room, I was in a daze for a moment, but soon started checking my list of acquired skills. Acquired skills list: False Evils Intuition LV1 description. With your intuition as a false evil, you can detect a deadly threat once a day. Inspect LV1 description. Displays important information about the target you are inspecting in the system window. Emergency Protection description. Protects the target once from a fatal blow. Disposable. Purchase limit 1/3. Mind reading LV1 description. Allows you to read a person's emotions once per day. Cooldown time does not apply for first use. This much is still useful. Since the system is still in the beginner stage, there is no ability powerful enough to defeat the Demon Lord, but even this level will be quite useful to me for now. First of all, there is nothing to say about False Evil's intuition, as this is a skill that I definitely need in my current situation. The Emergency Protection skill seems to be the most useful along with False Evil's intuition out of all the skills I have right now. It's a shame that it's disposable, and there's also a limit to the number of times I can purchase it, but seeing as how it protected me from Arena's curse, its performance is guaranteed. Other than that, inspect and mind reading may occasionally be helpful. For reference, there is no cooldown for the initial use of the mind reading skill, so I can use it again today. Item Store. Having looked around the skills for a while, I tried to open the item store, but a red notification window popped up in front of me instead. Notice, this feature is not supported at this stage. Does this mean I'm still far from the required level of False Evil? Feeling that the system was urging me to commit more evil deeds, I closed the notification window and finally opened the status window. Stats: name, Freyre on Starlight, strength, mana, intelligence, mental strength, 9, passive status, fatigue. What? Why is it like this? Something's strange. All figures except mental strength are coming out as question marks. I panicked and tried to tap the stat window, but no interaction occurred except for the mental strength stats. What the hell is this? By the way, my mental strength is quite high, isn't it? Perhaps my mental strength is high because in the previous timeline I held back my tears while committing sins and tried not to get stained by evil. However, why are the other stats displayed as question marks? Is it possible that I can only genuinely raise or see the stats from the next stage onwards? Or did something go wrong in the aftermath of the regression? After looking at the system window while making various guesses, I immediately tried to level up the only interactive stat mental strength, but the system once again left me with a message that it's not supported at this stage. As expected, do I have no choice but to accumulate points by committing evil deeds one step at a time? After closing the system with a sigh, I closed my eyes, feeling exhausted. The system also said I'm tired, so now is probably the time to get some sleep. After all, I will have to keep the heroines completely in check from tomorrow onwards, so shouldn't I be in good shape? As I closed my eyes and was about to fall asleep, knock, knock, knock. Suddenly, someone started knocking on my door, and I frowned, as I had no choice but to get up. Who is it? It's me, young master. Kanya? I was about to rack up more false evil points, as I was furious at the guy who dared to knock on my door in the middle of the night, but oddly enough, Kanya was the one standing in front of my room. What's all that? My luggage. I don't know why, but her luggage is piled up in the hallway in front of my room. Then, excuse me. As I was tilting my head at such a strange sight, Kanya suddenly pushed me inside the room and started unpacking her bags, one by one. What are you doing? I'm unpacking? No, why are you unpacking your luggage here? From today on, I have to stay here too. What? Startled by her words, I soon calmed my pounding heart and started speaking slowly. What kind of bullshit is this? You belong to the dormitory where all the lowly beings gather. This is the dormitory for nobles. Didn't you know? Upon hearing my words, Kanya smiled quietly and some unexpected words came out of her mouth. I entered the academy as young master's servant. What? What do you mean? Kanya entered the academy as a regular student in the previous timeline, if I recall correctly. So why is it like this now? Yesterday, I asked young master's father via telegram. Unfortunately, I got permission. Why the hell? Isn't he just worried about the young master, his son, who he lived with for a long time? There's no other reason. Kanya coldly replied to my question with a puzzled look and then added a few more words with a smirk. Oh, and the Duke also said this, monitor the young master so he won't cause trouble. If you kick me out, he'll have you expelled from the academy. Damn it. The moment Kanya said expelled, the system displayed a red warning window. Warning. Game over crisis. The path of false evil system considers the following 3 scenarios as game over. 1. Expulsion, or no longer attending the academy for some other reason. 2. The death of main heroines, even if it's only one. 3. The system owner dies in a situation other than the final battle. Yes, the system is constraining me in this way. Among them, the one that has now become a problem is the first case, expulsion from the academy. According to my ancestors' words in the prophetic book, it's a constraint because the background of Dark Tale Fantasy 2 is the academy. Thanks to this, I'm now in a tough situation. So why can't I just explain the situation to my father, who knows I'm a false evil, and then expel Kanya or make her a regular student? Because this damned world isn't that easy. Because of the magic spell cast on the prophetic book, at the moment of my regression, Anyone besides me who knew the contents of the prophetic book will have their memories recalibrated. Such a magic spell was cast because the system will penalize me by shortening my lifespan if someone finds out I'm a false evil. Therefore, if the game scenario mentioned in the prophetic book is correct, perhaps by now, my father has transformed into a person who treats me harshly because of my foolish behavior, and at the same time, he can't abandon me because of his fatherly love. It's a very awkward and strange setting, but what can I do about the constraint of the scenario? After all, there was a reason my ancestor was so fond of the term dog shit game. Anyway, in conclusion, in my previous life, I couldn't tell anyone the truth in order to make the hero's armament rampage, which uses good as its source of energy. Despite that, my father cheered me on and consoled me, and now my father is no longer by my side. In other words, there's no one who can help me. While I was in such a depressed mood, Kanya, who had unpacked all her luggage in my room, laid down on the extra bed, then bid me good night with a stiff smile. Then, "Good night, young master." After conveying her words, Kanya quietly closed her eyes and fell asleep. This is driving me crazy. After a moment of outrage, I thought about going outside to sleep but soon realized that Kanya might find that suspicious if I did that all the time for no apparent reason. And more importantly, there is nowhere I can sleep outside. It won't be easy to get a good night's sleep from now on. No, can I even sleep in the first place? Tonight, I pray to the Holy Sun God. While Frey was staying up the entire night with his eyes wide open, I apologize that I'm an apostate who dared to doubt the existence of the Sun God, and I'm extremely grateful that you've given me another chance. In the woman's dormitory not too far from the dormitory he was staying in, a girl of small stature reverently held her hands together in prayer. Even though I'm ashamed of myself, I dare to beseech the Sun God. She is known to the world as the pure white saintess thanks to her elegant and lustrous white hair, kind and pure heart, and the golden aura blooming from her body. Please help me this time, so I can tear Frey on Starlight to death. She soon finished her prayer with a cold expression on her face. If necessary, I will offer you the life of the Sperlochastelade. Chapter 5. Young Master, it's morning. Please wake up. 5 minutes. Today is the first day we'll meet our classmates. If we're running late, I don't care. Just let me sleep a little longer. I stayed up all night in fear of getting stabbed by Kanya while sleeping. Of course, when Kanya got up and tried to wake me up, I deliberately pretended to be asleep just to annoy her. It may appear to be a pointless action, but each of these actions becomes a false evil point that can save the world. Acquired false evil points, 1 point. Poor acting. If you like this novel, you can support us at https://genesisals.com/. We even have customized system prompts. To overcome the problems I'm facing right now, I immediately need to move on to the next phase. In other words, I need to work harder to commit more intense evil than ever before. Then I'll leave first. I hope I'm not late. Let's go together. Yes? If you're my attendant, you should go with me. Wait here for a minute. She has been trained as a butler in our family since childhood. So she has a sort of obsessive-compulsive disorder for following set rules and regulations and terribly hates breaking them. So, if I make her late on the first day, I'll be able to earn quite a lot of points. Young master, please, let me help you prepare immediately. Am I a kid? Stay still. I can handle this on my own. I stopped Kanya from trying to help me, then started packing as slowly as possible. Please, young master. Then Kanya, who was watching me, broke out in a cold sweat and hurried me along. Let's see. Books. Writing utensils. Shall I take a quill or a fountain pen? Young master, we're running out of time. Let's take everything first and then, which one do you prefer? Kanya? The fountain pen. Okay, then I'll take the quill. Exclamation mark. After wasting time like this for a while, Kanya lowered her head and muttered suddenly. Young master, we only have a minute left. Please allow me to leave. Wait, I haven't decided what brooch I'm going to put on yet. Didn't I do something wrong? I was casually rummaging through my brooches when I saw Kanya glaring at me with a resentful expression while asking a question. I wanted to tell her that trying to kill me is a mistake. But I decided to remain silent since it's all my fault and karma. If you tell me, I'll rectify it. So please forgive me. Kanya, you like fountain pens, don't you? Yes. But as she kept speaking, I took the treasured fountain pen that she always carried out of her pocket and spun it around while answering her questions. I heard that the recently developed magic fountain pen writes while moving by itself, isn't it? Is that so? Yes, isn't it really convenient? Because you don't have to hold the pen in your hand while writing. I see. But why does it matter now? By the way, just because a fountain pen can write by itself doesn't mean it's better than its owner, right? I grabbed Kanya's shoulder with one hand and stopped spinning the fountain pen in the other, then started poking her in the chest. If the fountain pen gets excited about the fact that it can move on its own and write on its own accord, it'll eventually be thrown away. In the end, a fountain pen is just a tool, no matter how brilliant the applied magic is. So, if you don't want to be abandoned, don't act on your own, Kanya. If you keep being imprudent, such as sending a telegram to my father when I didn't even ask like this time around, I'll throw you and your sister out of the family using my authority somehow. I don't understand. Kanya replied with her teeth clenched as I finished my speech by flinging her fountain pen into the corner of the room. I looked at her with a satisfied expression, then glanced sideways at the clock behind her and opened my mouth after confirming that it was past the hour mark. Well then, let's go slowly. Yes. You carry my bag. I'll just pick up a brooch then catch up with you soon. Alright. So I let her carry my bag and sent her out of the room. Then, I immediately stumbled and groaned, as I covered my mouth with my hand while coughing. Cough. Cough. Ugh. Apparently, when I grabbed Kanya's shoulder with my hand, I tried to infuse a day's worth of life force. It seems I overdid it. After sitting on the floor coughing for a while, I staggered up with my hand on the bed as I sighed and headed for the door. Hey. And now it's time to head to Class A, where all the heroines who are trying to kill me are gathered. You two, it's already been 10 minutes since the class started. What the hell were you doing? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. As soon as we entered Class A, we could hear the scolding of our homeroom teacher. Freyre on Starlight, and Kanya. The two of you are penalized 10 demerit points for tardiness. Do as you wish. As I headed to my seat, pretending to listen to the homeroom teacher's words, I quietly began staring at the system window in front of me. If you like this novel, you can support us at https://genesisals.com/. We even have customized system prompts. Acquired false evil points, 70 pints. Unavoidable, apostrophe. Yes, I had no choice. It was unavoidable. I'm sorry, Kanya. If Kanya is left unattended like this, she'll face her first crisis in a few months. In the previous timeline, she barely survived the crisis, but she was permanently subjected to excruciating pain and auditory hallucinations. So, to delay or overcome the first crisis, her younger sister must be awakened earlier than before. The reason I deliberately committed this kind of evil now is that there are items in the system's item store that can awaken her younger sister earlier than expected. When more than a certain amount of false evil points are accumulated, the next stage of the system will be unlocked, allowing access to the item store. Therefore, to prevent Kanya from being cursed and as a result, suffer from eternal pain and dreadful illusion for the rest of her life, I have no choice but to harvest points from her, who is currently the most vulnerable and closest person to me. For reference, one of the biggest reasons she committed suicide in front of me in the previous timeline was unbearable pain and auditory hallucinations. So, as the system stated, this was an unavoidable choice for me. Chomp, chomp. While I was thinking about that, I heard a strange noise. Looking to the side, I see Kanya biting her lips so hard that she was even bleeding profusely. It seems she is behaving like that since she feels guilty about being late on the first day and, as a result, received demerit points. Later, I'll have to put some good ointment in her bag without anyone noticing. Well then, now that everyone in class has arrived, let me introduce myself. Meanwhile, the professor who glared at us wrote her name in large letters on the blackboard, then opened her mouth as she examined all the Class A students. I am Isolde RM Bywalker. I'm the professor who will be in charge of your class for the first year. So, I look forward to your kind cooperation. I muttered to myself as I stared at her after her brief self-introduction. It's been a really long time since I last saw her. Isolde, the professor in charge of Class A in the first year, is the Academy's only true professor, its hope and last conscience. She is the eldest daughter of the Bywalker family. Her forefather was the sword saint who helped my ancestor, the hero, to challenge the Demon King 1,000 years ago. She is such a promising star that even in her family, that has always produced outstanding knights, she is known as the second coming of the sword saint. Having been on the steep rise from an early age with her exceptional skills, she was offered both the position of Deputy Commander of the Imperial Knights and the Academy Professorship at the same time a few months ago. Naturally, any normal person would have chosen the position of Deputy Commander of the Imperial Knights, which is the highest honor and path to success as a knight. However, Professor Isolde, who is now looking at us with an icy gaze, overturned everyone's expectations and chose the professorship position at the Academy. The reason was her forthright and righteous sense of justice. She chose Academy professorship with the aspiration to become a professor at the Academy and nurture future sprouts rather than becoming the deputy commander of the corrupt and decaying Imperial Knights who will be nothing more than a puppet. It's because of that she got into a huge fight with her family, who were furious with her choice, and in the end, she is now halfway disowned. Therefore, it is unlikely that she will ever refer to herself again as Bywalker after her self-introduction. However, just because she doesn't call herself a Bywalker doesn't mean her skills and dignity will disappear. She is proficient enough to subdue most of the Academy students, as she has the power to do so. Well then, let's get this class started. Most of the students sighed or grumbled when she announced the start of the class in a dry voice. That's because usually the first day of class is all about adventure tales, games, making new friends, or self-introduction. But there has never been a class that followed a curriculum like hers. Yes, Professor Isolde's downside is that she's a staunch advocate of principles. Perhaps that's why Kanya and she got along really well together. However, she is a teacher who deserves respect. When the Academy collapsed, the only one who remained until the end to slay the Demon King's army and to protect the students was none other than Professor Isolde. In other words, as I said earlier, she is literally the last conscience and hope of this corrupt academy. According to the contents of the prophetic book, thanks to such endeavors, I think she was called something like a sub-heroine in my ancestor's original world? It's something I don't understand quite well, but anyway, it's really fortunate that she is a sub-heroine. If her memories of the previous timeline also returned because she's the main heroine, I may have been engaged in a life and death battle with her by now. Why you? How can you be here? As I was engrossed in my thoughts, I suddenly heard a startled voice, and when I glanced aside, I saw Irina staring at me with a haggard face, as if she was looking at a ghost. And at the same time, I felt a chill down my spine, so when I looked back, I noticed Saintess Berloche glaring at me. Kanya, who was sitting right next to me, eventually stared at me with hateful eyes, and a cold breeze started blowing in the classroom. Concentrate. All of you there, focus. I'm not kind enough to take care of every single one of you just because you're in Class A. I was sweating profusely under such a gaze when Professor Rizola shouted while pounding the blackboard with her fists, averting the heroine's attention, as I sighed and mumbled under my breath. Now 3/5 of them have already gathered. Even without the presence of my fiancé who is abroad and the Imperial Princess who is supposed to arrive at the Academy right before the end of today's last class, the atmosphere of the classroom is already freezing. I guess I'll have to buy one of those hot packs soon. Then, let's finish today's class here. Professor Izolet, like a disciplinarian, finished the class the moment the bell rang to announce the break time. Thanks to this, I was freed from the pain of having to listen to what I already knew and started stretching as I leaned back in my chair. Suddenly, Kania, who was sitting next to me, got up from her seat and began heading somewhere else. As I was gazing her way while craning my neck, I suddenly heard a voice from behind. Excuse me. Sir Frey? When I heard a shrill voice, I turned around to find Saintess Berloche standing behind me with a nervous expression on her face. Would you like to visit the cathedral after school? I would like to give my blessing to Sir Frey, a member of the Heroes family. If you like this novel, you can support us at https://genesisals.com/. We even have customized system prompts. False evil's intuition, a strong murderous intent is felt nearby. If you like this novel, you can support us at https://genesisals.com/. We even have customized system prompts. Eventually, as soon as she made a suggestion while sweating profusely, a system window popped up in front of my eyes, and thanks to that, I had no choice but to mutter under my breath with an absurd expression on my face. What? Is this a foreshadowing of a murder? She is called the Pure White Saintess, who is kind and pure enough to be acknowledged by all the people across the continent. In other words, she is too naive to come up with a proper scheme. Status window, stats, name, Berloche Astelate strength, 1 holy power, 8 intelligence, 2 mental strength, 8 passive status, blessing of the sun god. I closed my eyes tightly and opened her status window while muttering softly as I looked at the trembling Berloche, then opened my eyes wide when I saw the status effect field. The blessing of the sun god? The blessing of the sun god is not something that any mortal can receive. It is a blessing bestowed only upon a saintess recognized by the sun god, and only when their earnest prayer has been answered. With such a blessing, the ability values become meaningless. Today, Berloche can even bend me with one hand and tear me to shreds. There's even a legendary tale that 1,000 years ago the saintess, who was a member of my ancestors' party, the hero, used that blessing to tear off the sides of the Demon King. If I follow her to the cathedral, I'll be quietly offered as a sacrifice to the sun god in secret, so when I immediately rejected her, Berloche had a shocked expression on her face. Now, wait a minute. Don't be like that, you don't seem to know the value of my blessing. The blessing I'm offering to Sir Frey today can't even be bought with money. Well, I don't need it. Yes? But. Get out of my face. I hate religious fanatics. Excuse me. So. As I spoke with an annoyed expression on my face, Berloche broke out in a cold sweat and began stuttering. As one can see, this pure white saintess literally not only has a pure heart but also a pure mind. To say it in nicer terms, she is a devout believer who only knows the sun god and his doctrines. To put it bluntly, she's just a holy power shuttle. When I realized that she didn't even come up with a plan B when I would reject her offer, her scheme was already over. Tch, because you're so stupid, the church took advantage of you. The elders of the church who coveted her ability, which was overflowing with holy power to the extent that even the system had to label it holy power instead of mana, deceived her with honeyed words into becoming their holy power shuttle. After all, it is the church that serves the crazy sun god who bestowed his blessing upon the heroine who's trying to kill me instead of giving me a helping hand, who was desperately struggling to save the world. Not to mention the guy didn't even show up at all in the previous timeline when the Demon King was rampaging all around without hesitation. Therefore, the church needs to be reformed. It feels like even when I stay still, I somehow get more mess to deal with. Piss off. You holy power shitstain. When I rebuked her harshly because of my worsening mood, the saintess bowed her head while holding back her tears and returned to her seat. To be honest, I was worried about what to do if she got desperate enough to try ripping my head off, but I'm glad she didn't. How is he even alive? That fucking son of a bitch. Was he in First Crisis cahoots with the Demon King since this early on? Perloche returned to her seat looking defeated. Then, Irina, who was next to me, started muttering something in a panic. She will suffer from mana exhaustion for a year, so in the future, I think I should take care of her like Kanya. If she drops out of class or gets expelled, the scenario will have a lot of problems. Then, the most dangerous ones are the Imperial Princess and my fiancé. So, listening to the voices of Perloche, who was diligently planning her next scheme in the back seat, and Irina, who was constantly muttering next to me, I quietly leaned back in my chair and started pondering about the Imperial Princess and my fiancé. And after mulling over it for a while, I came to the following conclusion. Should I just take a leave of absence? Even with the system, I'm not confident I can beat them both. I found it, my fountain pen. While Frey was agonizing over how to deal with the Imperial Princess and his fiancé, Kanya returned to Frey's dormitory and picked up the fountain pen that had been lying on the floor. I'll definitely kill you, you son of a bitch. No matter the cost. She tightly embraced the fountain pen, which she forgot to take with her in fear of being late. The most precious treasure her sister gave her as a gift when she was young, then tried to return to the main academy building before the class bell rang. Soon after, she noticed something on the white bedsheet as she tilted her head and approached it. What is this? There remained blood-stained handprints,